Okay, so following on from our talk today that we had in the meeting, I talked about 6 exercises that you could do part of your workout routine that are specific to golf. So I'm going to go through the 6 exercises. I'm going to give you my little points on what to do. The structure in which you should do these exercises is about 30 seconds per exercise, and then take 15 seconds in between just to get you prepared for the next one. Once you've done one full round, if you feel like you can do another, then restart again. And if you feel like you can do a 3rd round and a 4th round, then great, keep doing them until you feel like you've worked your body out a little bit. So the first exercise we're going to do a single leg raise, alternate leg raise, but we're going to press the club into our leg to get a little bit more core activation, okay? So we're going to hold the club up. Doesn't matter which club it is, against our legs, just underneath our knees onto our top of our thighs, pressing down while legs pressing up, alternate legs. We go one side and then to the other side. One side to the other side. That is the first exercise. So when you do that, you want to ensure that your lower back is pressed into the floor, your legs stay steady the whole way. Your club should not move forward or back. So once you've created that pressure, try and keep it into one place, and then you keep alternating legs for the 30 seconds. Into our second exercise, which is our sit up with our arms up. There are 2 different variations, which I'm going to talk about, which will be regressions, in case the first one is a little bit hard for you, okay? So what we're going to do for the first one, we're going to plant our feet onto the floor. We're simply going to sit up and try and keep that club nice and high each time. If you feel like your arms are dropping down to here, then what I would suggest is just stretch your legs out a little bit. So let's go into the first regression and then do the same movement, try and keep those arms up a little bit more. So it always feels like it's in front of your chest. Always at eye level. The last regression you can do is simply doing crunches. So you lie onto your back, planting your feet onto the floor, hands onto your thighs. All you're trying to do now is to lift the top part of your back on the floor, off the floor, and reach up to your knees. So from here, up to here, back down. Up to here, back down. And you notice every time I'm holding for a second, I'm getting that core engagement and then releasing. Now we go on to the 3rd exercise. The 3rd exercise is probably the most complex of all of them, because it requires us to move on different planes during this exercise. So the first part of the movement is simple. We're going to step back and then into our reverse lunge and just sink down into our hips, From here, we're going to turn into whichever leg is forward. So if the right leg is forward, we're going to turn that way, come back up. Then we're going to stand up, ensuring that all the weight is over our front foot. Stand up. And the last part is we're going to lift that knee up towards the sky. Point of cues to kind of take in mind as you're doing this. Be wary of where your head positioning is. Your head positioning will dictate how you balance. For instance, so over here, I have to counterbalance that way, but if I didn't, I'd just fall over. Same when you're doing exercises. Whenever you're doing an exercise, your head positioning has a lot to do with how your balance is. Second point, whichever muscle you're working, for instance, we're working the glute maximus for this, try and squeeze that muscle. So as we've gone into our lunge, twisted, and we're going to stand up and lift that knee up, squeeze that hip forward. So we're going to stand up, squeeze forward, and then we go back into it. And you keep repeating, okay? You're going to do 30 seconds on one leg, then 30 seconds on the other. Then we move into our 3rd exercise, okay? So our 3rd exercise is going to be squats. 2 variations of squats, okay? This is an exercise which you need to find where you're at for it in terms of your strength and mobility, and then you need to pick the correct progression or regression, okay? So, whenever we're doing a squat, we just want to have a nice good setup, similar to a goal posture again, feet shoulder apart, You can even have your toes turned out. We're going to push our hips back a little bit. So I'm just working on a hinge movement. And then from here, I'm just going to separate my knees so they track over the lines of my toes. So just going from here to here. And then you just stand back up, push hips forward. Same again. So hips go back, knees go out, and go forward. I'm going to show you from a side point of view, okay? Reason why is because I don't want you to cheat this exercise if you're going to use a stool. Whenever you use a stool, it's quite easy to fall back onto it and for the pressure to go off your feet. So like so, this can happen. Now when I sit back to here, it's not my legs that are stabilising the movement, the stool is stabilising me, okay? We want to try and keep the pressure and tension through our leg muscles. So, as we do this, feel like the weight stays over your feet. So from here, the weight is still over my feet. I come back up, over my feet, back up. If that is a little bit easier for you to do, or a little bit too easy for you to do, then you can do a nice normal body weight squat without the stool. So you simply do the same movement, same cues. We go hip hinge, separate your knees, and then we just come back up at the bottom and stand up tall. From here, stand back up. But again, you have to pick the variation which is suited to you. So now we move into the fifth exercise, which is going to be the funny aerobic exercise that I was talking about before, which is really good for developing those stabilizing glute medius muscles, okay? So from here, you're going to turn your toes down. So you notice my toes aren't turned up, but they're facing the floor. And you're simply just going to lift up as high as you can, then down. As high as you can, down. Try not to have your bum sitting back. Try to have good posture still. So from my chest down to my heel, there's a nice straight line. The toes turn down, up, back down, up, back down, okay? Same again. Whenever you're doing these exercises, it's all about being slow and controlled. So you do 30 seconds on one side, and then you simply switch sides, do 30 seconds on the other. The very last thing I want you guys to do is to work our back muscles a bit, is to do an arrow. An arrow, depending on your flexibility or your mobility, there'll be different grades from the floor, okay? So for the people who have problems with their back, you just want to come back up as high as you can, reach out, and then squeeze your arms in. Let me just move myself back a bit so you can see. So from here, you're just trying to keep your elbows up as high as you can, forward, then squeeze into those back muscles, keep those elbows up nice and high. If that is a little bit easy for you, then you can start to arch your back off the floor with the movement. So, we go chest nice and high, we got arms extended, and you squeeze back. As I'm squeezing back, try and get that chest off the floor a little bit more.